Gen Z, we are the TikTok zombies, the I can't live without Wi-Fi generation, the attention span of a goldfish generation. But that's the narrative that's always been pushed about us, right? We've become the punchline, the meme, the joke and complaint of every single individual who was born before the invention of touchscreen phones. But here's the thing, what if Gen Z isn't the weakest generation? What if we're the most adaptable generation? Not because we wanted to be, but because we weren't given a choice. What if Gen Z isn't the misunderstood problem everyone assumes we are, but rather the underestimated solution? And this is what I want to explore today. Not how Gen Z is perceived, but who we truly are. For one, Gen Z doesn't waste time. We optimize. The phrase, work smarter, not harder, is a motto that most Gen Z individuals genuinely run by. Our pure focus on efficiency has been labeled as laziness and unintelligence. People assume that because we want shortcuts in life, we don't want to work. But the truth is, we just refuse to work inefficiently. Since the moment my generation has been born, we have been doused in information. Information on our parents' phones, information on the TV, information on even our Nintendo Switches. Everywhere we turned, information was upon us. Colorful, fast-moving, attention-grabbing. We didn't just consume media, but we literally lived through it. We were thinking through it. That doesn't make my generation lazy. It makes us one of the most digitally literate, intuitive, and inventive generations in history. With technology at our disposal, my generation likes to automate things that the older generations would manually do. For example, if my doorknob were to be broken, my first instinct isn't to guess and pray. It would be to go on YouTube and search up a video on how to fix the problem. Why struggle for 45 minutes when I can complete this task in 5 minutes? And why is that considered a bad thing? With technology, skills like multitasking have become a natural cognitive ability. Tasks like completing schoolwork, responding to texts, listening to music, and thinking about 3 different tasks simultaneously isn't a distraction, but it's just the way we grew up. We grew up being able to process that type of information rather quickly. Raise your hand if you know another language. Does anyone know another language? Okay, I see a few people who do. Well, I'm sure for those of you who do know another language, you can attest to the fact that you don't need to think about the correct grammar that you're using or the way that you're pronouncing and articulating some words. It just comes naturally to you because that is the language that you are most proficient at, right? You're the most fluent at it. Using this analogy, it's the same way with Gen Z and technology. We are fluent at it. That is our language. You don't have to think about the tools. We simply use it. People also say that Gen Z has done nothing, absolutely nothing, to contribute to society. It's because we don't want to work, therefore we have no value. But I beg to differ. I believe that Gen Z has actually redefined the workforce. Gen Z has created new jobs that didn't exist nearly 5 years ago. Jobs like crypto analysts, micro-entrepreneurs, digital freelancers, online educators, you name it. Gen Z did that. As of 2023, it was said that about 64 million Americans were participating in digital freelance jobs. That's about 38% of the US American workforce. That's crazy. I would say that's Gen Z making an impact. It's not laziness, that's being innovative. Gen Z took nothing and turned it into something. And that's what Gen Z is all about, their adaptability. Now, I want to go into something that people don't talk about a lot. It's that Gen Z has been through multitudes of chaos. Many might say that Gen Z has never seen a day of struggle and they don't know what it's like to truly suffer because they haven't seen the real world. And at times, that may be true. We are a very privileged generation, but I do believe that my generation has had their fair share of chaos. For one, COVID, during our most formative years. school safety concerns that left lasting impacts. Protests and movements like Black Lives Matter and Palestinian efforts have reshaped our perspectives. And the continuity of conflicts like economic instability, inflation, and uncertainty about college and career have remained persistent throughout my generation. My generation is a part of history, not by reading about it, but by quite literally living through it. And because of everything we have experienced in the past decade, it has made us one of the most resilient generations at an unbelievably very young age. We're often called sensitive, but I just think that sensitivity is empathy with a microphone. The older generations were taught to obey, follow the rules, and to fit in this tight little box. Gen Z, well, we challenge, we question, and we demand for better. Individuals like Greta Thunberg, Marley Diaz, and countless of others who don't have that large of a following have used their voices to make a change. Take Greta Thunberg, climate activist, for example. How many Gen Z individuals do you know that actually care about climate change? I'll tell you, not that many. But Greta, being part of Gen Z, still uses her voice as a platform to talk about climate change and stand for what she believes. Now, agree with Gen Z's beliefs or not, it is undeniable that we have the grit, the strength, and the bravery to actually make a change. My generation isn't sensitive because we're dramatic. We're sensitive because we've grown up seeing the consequences of staying silent. And Gen Z is anything but silent. We aren't afraid to talk about mental health. We aren't afraid to talk about inequity. We aren't afraid to talk about what other people are too uncomfortable to say. Events of the past 5 years, like terror, protests, and wars, have shoved Gen Z into roles like advocacy and leadership. If others aren't putting in the effort to make a change, then who will? That's right, Gen Z. Many say that we have the tenacity to talk about things we believe in at a young age. I would like to remind you that youth doesn't equal ignorance, and age doesn't equal wisdom. And that's something that people should start recognizing. Now, here's something that sets Gen Z apart from any other generation. Something almost no other generation really has. And that is that Gen Z actually cares about people. Now, this may be quite controversial and very simple, but it's huge. Gen Z leads with creativity. They lead with inclusivity. They lead with compassion, something the older generations just weren't raised to prioritize. We value representation, culture, identity, humanity, and all those things. Gen Z has quite literally normalized having boundaries, openness, vulnerability, self-care, therapy, activism. People call Gen Z soft, but is it soft to care? Is it soft to include others? Is it soft to create spaces where people actually feel safe? Well, I argue that it's not soft, it's called progress. Gen Z is also the generation that can turn a hobby into a job, a trend into a business, a meme into a movement, a social cause into global conversation. We are creative not for the fun of it, but for survival. We innovate because it's one of the very few things that we actually have control over in this very chaotic generation, believe it or not. Our inclusivity shouldn't be considered a weakness. It should be considered a strength, a form of leadership. And it's time that we start recognizing that. So who exactly is Gen Z? Well, we aren't the addicted generation. We are the adaptable generation. We aren't the sensitive generation. We're the empathetic generation. We most certainly aren't the lazy generation. We're the efficient generation. We aren't the chaotic generation. We are the resilient generation. We're not disconnected. We're inclusive. We're not unskilled. We're just innovative. Gen Z's here not to break down the world. We're here to rebuild it. Yes, we might not do things in the traditional way or the way that older generations have made the mold for us. We don't fit those standards, but that's the point. You're building a new path, one that is kinder, smarter, more creative, more human. So don't fear the takeover of Gen Z. Don't underestimate us, and certainly don't ignore us. We are here to make a change. And just do what we always say. Trust the process. Thank you.